Welcome back, everybody, to Ein Sof Learning. This week's Torah portion is Nitzavim. The word Nitzavim literally means standing. Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulechem. You are all standing here today. That's the first verse of this parsha, where Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking directly to the children of Israel just a few days before his passing, before they enter the land of Israel under Yehoshua's leadership. And one of the final words of Moses is this: Ki ha-mitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavecha hayom. Because this mitzvah, this commandment that I command you today, lo nifle'et hi mimecha velo rechoka hi. It is not concealed from you, and it is not distant from you. Lo b'shamayim hi lemor mi ya'ale lanu hashamayma v'yikacheha lanu v'yashmienu ata v'na'asena. It is not in heaven for you to say, who will go after it to bring it for us, to tell it to us, so that we can fulfill it. In other words, Moses is saying that we should not make the mistake in thinking that the Torah is distant from us, that us achieving our spiritual potential, us reaching our fullest and complete version of ourselves in this world, is something that is very distant and something that is very far. You should not think such a thing. V'lo me'ever hayam hi lemor mi ya'avar lanu el ever hayam v'yikacheha lanu v'yashmienu ota v'na'asena. And you shouldn't say it's on the other side of the sea. So who will cross the sea to fetch it for us and fulfill it for us? Ki karov elecha hadavar. Because in reality, the matter is very close to you. Karov elecha hadavar me'od. Beficha uvilvavcha la'asoto. In your heart and in your mouth to do it. That's the words of encouragement that Moses gives in this week's parsha. You shouldn't think that your potential is far from you, is distant from you. Rather, you should know that it is very, very close. In fact, the word here is used is karov me'od. It's exceedingly close for you to do it. It's in your mouth and it's in your heart for you to do it. So I want to bring our attention to Rabbi Yaakov Hanokaee, the Baba Sali's grandfather, otherwise known as the Abir Yaakov, who expounds upon these couple verses on a more mystical / Kabbalistic level. So let's see what he has to say about these sentences before we can make it relevant in our lives. אפשר לרמוז דאין רוח ונשמה באים לאדם כי אם על ידי זכיות הרבה וקדושה וטהרה. He says that in these sentences there is a hint that the ruach and neshama, which are the two higher levels of the soul above the nefesh, do not enter a person until they have enough merit, holiness, and purity. So a person really requires to have merit, purity, and holiness in order to be able to receive their ruach and their neshama. Now let's define some terms. Your nefesh, which is the lowest level of your soul, is the one that enlivens your body, the one that gives life to your very body itself. It's the lowest level of the soul, responsible for your actions. Every movement and action that you make is fulfilled by the nefesh. Then there's the ruach, which is one level above the nefesh. Some translate it as the spirit of a person, because that is the personality or the character of an individual. It decides the habits and the mood that a person has. So that in many ways is the spirit, the ruach of a person. It's above the nefesh. Then there's the neshama, which is even above the ruach. The neshama is responsible for divine intellect, for grounding in Torah wisdom. The neshama is responsible for higher order thinking and for divine judgment. That's related to the mind level, which is above the ruach. So these three levels of the soul, from lowest to above, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, are responsible for the affairs of a person, whether in the world of action, in the world of emotion, or in the world of intellect. Each one corresponding to one of these three levels. Of course, we know that there are olamot that correspond to these levels as well. Olam asiyah, the world of action, is the world of the nefesh. Olam yetzirah, the world of formation, is the world of the ruach. And Olam Bria, the world of creation, is the world of the neshama. So a person is not able to receive the higher levels, the ruach and the neshama, until they have purified themselves. In other words, the nefesh is not necessarily pure, but nevertheless everybody has a nefesh. The nefesh isn't necessarily a good nefesh. It could be an animalistic nefesh. It could be a destructive force. A person who moves their body and does actions with their body, there is a tremendous amount of darkness and klipa, blockages, that prevent a person from making the right actions. Because the nefesh itself is actually starting out as being impure, starts out as being selfish. So a person's actions from their youth are naturally selfish. So in order for a person to get the ruach and the neshama, which are the pure and holy levels of the soul, they've got to first rectify their nefesh, which means their body, because the body is the one that actually performs the actions, but the nefesh is the life of the body. So in order to merit the ruach and the neshama, which are the holy levels of your own soul, you've got to first rectify the lower levels, being your nefesh, which is responsible for your actions. וגם הנפש לא תמלא להיות שלמה עד שיהיה מתוקן כפי הראוי לנפש. So he's saying here that the nefesh itself will not be filled and complete until it will correct itself properly. So again, even the nefesh itself needs to be rectified. דאף על גב דהנפש אינה נחסרת משום אדם. Because even though the nefesh is not missing from any person, every person has at least the level of nefesh at any given moment. מכל מקום אינה שלמה עד שיעשה התיקון הראוי לה. Nevertheless, it is not complete, the nefesh itself is not complete until it has been rectified. The nefesh itself requires tikkun. וגם כן הנפשות אינן שוות דזו למעלה מזו. And even then, all nefashot, the level of nefesh, are not the same. One person has a higher level nefesh. Another person has a lower level nefesh. So there are levels to the soul, whether on the level of nefesh, ruach, or neshama. Not every person's nefesh is the same stature. Not every person's ruach is the same stature. And not everybody's neshama is the same stature. That means that each person's potential is different. אבל הרוח והנשמה אינם באים כי אם על ידי מעשים טובים וקדושה וטהרה כראוי. However, the ruach and the neshama, the two higher levels of the soul, do not come except through good deeds, purity, holiness, וכמה וכמה שאינם זוכים לרוח, ומכל שכן לנשמה. And there are many, many people who never merit to receive the ruach, and all the more so the neshama. So from this very small paragraph, we're learning that it is not easy to become holy, but it is not impossible. It starts with the nefesh, first with correcting your actions, and then a person can climb the spiritual ladder towards rectifying their ruach, their spirit/emotional functions. And then, once they've rectified that area, they can then move up the ladder a little bit more to the neshama, which is responsible for higher order thinking and divine intellect, which really corresponds to the consciousness of your neshama. Your neshama is your soul. That's the real you. When we're talking about a soul in the wisdom of Kabbalah or in Judaism, we're referring to the neshama. Neshama is the true self, is your true who you are, is your true self. That's the neshama. The nefesh and the ruach are actually considered lower than the neshama. The neshama is your true self. The nefesh is responsible for your actions. The ruach is responsible for your emotions. But the neshama is in the intellect. That's where you really are. When you say ani, which in Hebrew means I, Ani, I, the self that you refer to when you say Ani, that's actually your neshama, which is in the intellect. But the neshama requires the participation of the nefesh and the ruach, which are the lower levels of the soul, in order to bring balance and harmony within oneself. ועל זה אמר שלמה המלך עליו השלום, כי נר מצווה ותורה אור. And Shlomo HaMelech says in the book of Mishlei, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23, that a commandment, a mitzvah, is compared to a candle, while the Torah is compared to light. V'derech chaim tochechot musar. And the way of life is rebuke and ethical training. A person needs to go through discipline and ethical training in order to attain their path in life, in order to walk the right path. Ner roshei tevot neshama v'ruach. That's what Shlomo HaMelech says in the book of Proverbs, that a mitzvah, a commandment, is compared to a candle. Candle in Hebrew is ner. You spell it nun resh. That's really an acronym. The nun stands for neshama. The resh stands for ruach. So ner roshei tevot neshama ruach. The word candle in Hebrew is actually a acronym for the two higher levels of the soul called neshama and ruach. Dehainu haruach v'haneshama shehem ner taluim b'mitzvah v'torah v'derech chaim tochechot musar. This teaches us, what does it mean? That a mitzvah, a commandment, is compared to a ner, a candle, which is neshama and ruach. What's the hint in this? That a person is only able to attain their nefesh, their ruach and their neshama through doing mitzvot, which means mitzvot v'torah v'derech chaim tochechot musar. They've got to go through intense ethical training in Torah, mitzvot, and derech chaim. They've got to walk the path of life. Al yedei hadvarim ha'ele tuchal liknot haruach v'haneshama. And through these strong words that Moshe Rabbeinu is giving the children of Israel in today's Parsha, we are actually able to attain this level when we follow these instructions. Because without these strong words of musar and rebuke, and really what Moses is doing in this Parsha is he is preparing us to enter into the land of Israel. Without this preparation, a person would be unable to receive the ruach and the neshama, which is what every person really seeks to attain in their life. V'perush v'derech chaim. So when Shlomo HaMelech says derech chaim, the path of life, what does that really mean? Dahainu im ratzita liknot haner. He means that if you want to attain the ner, the nefesh, the neshama and the ruach, the two higher levels of the soul, shehem haruach ve'haneshama, tzarich lehitasek b'torah ve'mitzvot. You have to occupy yourself. You've got to deal with Torah and mitzvot. Because Torah or the mitzvah ner. The Torah is light and the mitzvah is a commandment. דהיינו יתקדש בקדושה וטהרה עד שיהיה גופו ראוי לקבל החיים העליונים. In other words, a person must sanctify themselves with holiness and purity until their body, their vessel, which is their physical body, will be fitting to receive the supreme life, which refers to the influence of the ruach and the neshama. The influence of the ruach and the neshama, the two higher levels of the soul, are considered the chayut mitzat kedusha. They are the vitality, the life that comes from the side of holiness. That's the ruach and the neshama. So in order for a person to be able to receive the supreme holiness, this supreme level of life, hachayim ha'elyonim, it's called in Hebrew, the supreme life, higher life, vitality, a person must sanctify their vessel corresponding to their nefesh, the lower level of the soul, which is corresponding to the body, the physical actions of a person. So until your physical actions are not correct, you are unable to receive the influence of your your ruach and your neshama, which are from the side of holiness. In simple terms, to make it more easy to understand, a person cannot become holy until their actions become holy. In other words, even if your thoughts and your emotions are unholy, as long as your actions are holy, you are slowly building a vessel that will later allow you to receive holy emotions and holy thoughts. But the prerequisite to receiving holy emotions and holy thoughts is holy actions. And that is 100% in our control. The way we act is in our control. You could argue the way we feel and the way we think is not always in our control because we are distracted easily, we are not strong. But even then, you have power over your actions, which once you correct your actions, can lead to holy thoughts and holy emotions. So in a certain respect, you actually do have control over your emotions and your thoughts. It all depends on your ma'asim tovim, on good deeds, which is 100% in your control. והנה אל יתחמץ לב האדם. Rabbi Bochatzera is kind of giving us some reassurance. He's saying you should not be afraid of this matter. You should not think to yourself, oy voy, it's way too far away, I will never be able to receive the ruach and the neshama. You should not become sour and say that this is unattainable, because that is the very tactic of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, to convince you that you cannot attain holiness. And that's a falsehood. That's a false belief that it convinces you of in order to prevent you from reaching your highest status. Al yitchametz lev ha'adam vifathu יצר הרע ואומר לו שאם אתה טורח ויגע בזמן הגלות לקנות רוח ונשמה לריק אתה יגע כי אין להם השגה בזמן הזה. He's saying that the evil inclination tries to say that, now that you don't have the holiness, you're in exile and you feel that you're very far away, the truth is you'll never be able to reach it. It's not just temporarily that you're disconnected from the holiness. You are permanently this way. You're stuck in the exile and you have to accept it. That's what the Yetzer Hara wants you to believe. It's impossible to feel the holiness of the neshama and the ruach, the two higher levels of the soul, so long as you are in exile. And that is true. That is a Kabbalistic truth. That during the time of galut, a person's ruach and neshama, which come from the side of holiness, are truly beyond your reach. That's why you're in exile. Exile means that you're exiled from your ruach and your neshama. That's the very definition of being in exile, actually. So although that may be true, biglal hitgabruta sitra achra, because during time of exile, the other side, the forces of impurity, are stronger, and therefore you're unable to feel or see through the lens of the holiness of your ruach and your neshama. So since that's the case, the Yetzer Hara says, Imken, lama lecha kol hachumrot v'hakdusha v'hataora. Why should you trouble yourself with purifying yourself and holiness and all of these things? Why should you trouble yourself with all these stringencies of the mitzvot and keeping Shabbat and wrapping tefillin and eating kosher? Why should you trouble yourself? Ki ein lecha yitron bazeh. Ki ein lecha yitron bazeh. Because you will not be saved through this. Lefi she'ein ata zocheh ki im b'nefesh kish'ar ha'am. Because you are not meritorious. You can only attain the level of nefesh, just like all the other people. We said at the beginning, most people never reach the ruach and the neshama. That's another Kabbalistic truth. But the Yetzer Hara takes that fact, which happens to be true, and twists it to make you believe that you too can never receive the ruach and the neshama. The very reason why most people don't receive their ruach and their neshama is because the Yetzer Hara convinces them that they cannot do it. And because people don't believe in themselves, they don't end up making it. That is something that happens. And that's why most people never ever end up reaching that level. Because the Yetzer Hara, the voice of your evil inclination, is strong during time of exile. But a person must be smarter than the Yetzer Hara, to know that what God says is true. If God says, keep my commandments, follow in my laws, follow in my ways, and you will have a good life, you will see joy in your lifetime. If God is the one telling you this statement, but you choose to go after the advice of the evil inclination, which convinces you that that is not true, that that is really a trick, that's the same thing that happened to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. God told them, don't eat and live, or eat from the tree and die. And the evil inclination, the snake, came and told them, God just doesn't want you to become like him. He's jealous. He doesn't want you to know what he knows. Because by eating from this tree, you will know good and bad, just like he knows. So the snake convinced them that God is tricking them by telling them not to eat from the tree. And really, they should eat from the tree, so they can see the secret that God was keeping from them. And that's the same thing that the evil inclination tempts us today. God says, don't commit this sin. God says, keep my Shabbat, eat kosher, don't eat non-kosher, don't work on Shabbat, don't gossip, don't be oppressive towards others. He gives you commandments. But the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, comes and says, don't listen to him. He just doesn't want you to experience those pleasures. He's preventing you from experiencing the pleasures that you want. If you want them, why should you listen to him? Go get them. That's the evil inclination. And most people fall for that trick. He keeps whispering to you that you're like everybody else. You'll only ever be able to receive the nefesh. You'll never be able to reach the ruach and the neshama. You're like everybody else, the rest of the people, the rest of the nation. ולמה לך תורך שאין בו יתרון דברי יצר הרע מהבל ימעטו. Rabbi Abu Chaser says, don't listen to the evil inclination. Don't believe the advice of the Yetzer Hara. Because its advice is vanity. Hevel. That means it's void. It's null and void. וגם בזמן הגלות יוכל האדם להשיג רוח ונשמה ממקום עליון. The truth is that even during exile, a person is able to attain ruach and neshama. גם בזמן הגלות, even during a time of exile, this higher stature of holiness from the ruach and neshama is possible to attain. דהכל לפי רוב המעשה, because it all depends on your actions. So yes, so long as your actions are improper and incorrect, you will not be able to experience the ruach and the neshama. You are in exile away from the ruach and the neshama. But that's not the end of the story. The main point is that even during exile, you can fix your actions, you can correct your ways, and by doing so, you will be able to attain the ruach and the neshama. So there is a way out of the exile. You are not trapped in the exile. You are not stuck in this exile. That's the main point. So a person should not believe that the ruach and the neshama is so far away. Rather, they should know that ki karov elecha hadavar ma'od, that the matter is exceedingly close to you. Bevilvavcha, what did the words say? Bevilvavcha, beficha la'asoto. It's exceedingly close to you, in your mouth, in your heart, to do it. That's why it says la'asoto, to do it, because the actions, the world of asiyah, the world of action, is the key to unlocking access to the ruach and the neshama. which are the higher levels of the holiness of your soul. That's what the whole journey of spirituality is. The journey of actualizing your potential. Your soul is the potential. Your body is the actual. When you bring your soul into your body through correcting your actions, you are in effect integrating your soul and your body together. You are becoming whole. You're becoming one. You're no longer this disintegrated, pieced up person that has scattered sparks all over. No, rather you are an integrated person whose soul and body work together in order to serve God. Is it easy? No. Is it far away? No. So yes, it's hard, but it's close. What's the hard? What's the difficulty? Believing in yourself. Believing in Hashem's promise that you can make it too. Hashem promises us that you can do it, but He doesn't force us. He gives us the ability, and He tells us how to make it. But He also allows us the choice to choose it or to reject it. The main thing is the actions. Yes, you love God and you like thinking about God and you like to dream, and that's good. But the most important part is the actions. Are you action-oriented or are you a daydreamer? Don't daydream. Don't trip out in your mind learning but not doing. Learning without doing isn't learning at all. It's just mental exercise. It's a mental exercise, and that's not the way to achieve your neshama. Not through mental exercise. Learn Torah. Enjoy the learning. Stimulate your mind. Feel the Torah. Express your emotions during prayer. But the most important part is the actions. Do you wrap tefillin or not? Do you observe Shabbat or not? Do you walk to synagogue or not? Where are your actions? What are you doing? That's the biggest indicator of what one believes. What you believe is not what you think, and is not what you say, nor what you feel. It's what you do. That's the best way to know what a person believes. By the way they act, the way they behave, especially when no one else is around. That's called integrity. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next class.